Thank you for joining us for another show of Capital Preview, brought to you by MediaCom. I'm Bill Peard, and we are going to talk this morning about legislative views on topics that are important to Iowans. Our guest today is Representative Rob Taylor, a Republican from West Des Moines. Representative Taylor, good to have you here this morning.
Happy to be here, Bill.
I kind of want to, we'll kind of launch into some of the things that are important to you, but maybe we get an overview a little bit of the legislature, and I know that the 100 days is up on April the 19th, and I know we've been visiting about it a little bit, so you think we're on time, or?
Well, hopefully we're ahead of time,
Yeah.
and we're ahead of schedule, but you never know. We just came through the end of our second funnel week, so we know what has survived, and now we're transitioning from what has been policy bills more into budget bills now. So
Yeah.
the last half of our session usually is focused on budget, and I always look forward to the last half because I sit on appropriations and education appropriations.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about the budget. I know that both sides have been meeting to agree on budget numbers, so maybe you want to give us a little bit of an overview, and I know that something's happening this week on the budget.
The REC meets this week, and really we're waiting for them to meet to see what their projections look like, if our revenue stream is moving upwards or downwards, and then we'll set our budgets accordingly. In my other life, I drive around 65 counties in central and western Iowa for my daytime job, and things aren't bad out there, but they're not great. So I'm a little bit skeptical as to whether or not we're going to have growth in revenue back to the state, and so we're being fiscally conservative as far as our budget projections right now.
Yeah. I know Iowa is a big ag-based state.
It is.
We derive a lot of our revenue from the ag economy in Iowa, and with the economy slowing down in ag, I'm sure that has some people concerned in the budgeting process as well, right?
It
For
is.
making projections.
And when you look at our state budget, 90% of our budget is taken up by three things: state wages and benefits, education, and health and human services. So that said, the House Republicans are trying to be very fiscally conservative about where we're going, especially the last half of session, so that we don't overfund.
Sure. Rob, another issue I know that you have been a part of in a lot of different ways is that medical marijuana.
Absolutely.
The second part of the medical marijuana right in the rules for the bill that was passed 2 years ago.
Absolutely. I don't know that that's going anywhere this year. I don't think that our leadership has the political fortitude right now to bring that forward. I was just at a medical convention over the weekend with over 1,500 physicians in Orlando, Florida, and one of the issues that came up was medicinal marijuana, and they talked extensively about the new law that was just implemented last year in Minnesota. Very interesting law, very restrictive, but promising. That said, I would agree with our leadership here in the Iowa House. And it was one of the things that I spoke to a number of physicians in Minnesota in regards to the scheduling of marijuana at the federal level. And I have a great concern, as well as a number of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, frankly, if we continue to try and move forward with a medicinal marijuana law in Iowa without looking at the federal scheduling, moving marijuana from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule II drug. We have a new president, whoever that might be, and a new attorney general. If they're not medicinal marijuana friendly, they could revert back to the states and say we are breaking federal law, which in fact other states would be. Just to clarify, in Iowa, we're not breaking any laws. We didn't pass a medicinal marijuana law. What we did was we gave certain citizens the ability to possess cannabidiol under certain circumstances, that in fear that they would be prosecuted. So we have not legalized medical marijuana, and I clarified that at our medical convention last week.
That is a good point, because I think a lot of people think that that has been passed. And
Yeah, all we did in certain circumstances with folks that have intractable epilepsy, that they have the ability to possess cannabidiol without fear of prosecution.
Rob, I know you're a big supporter of education, and I know you fight probably as hard as anybody up at that state house for for educational funding to be a responsible legislator up there too. So you want to kind of give me a little bit of a snapshot? We're kind of having to wind up here a little bit.
Sure.
But
Well, House Republicans, where we're at right now, we passed a bill out at 2%, supplemental state aid. The Senate rejected it. They want 4%. Now it's in conference committee. I would hope that we, at minimum, are at 2% supplemental state aid. But what I've been pushing from the very beginning has been 2.45%. That was in the governor's budget. That's what I spoke with my superintendent of schools, Dave Wilkerson from Waukee, before session ever started, that's what I was going to push hard for. And I'm hopeful that when we start setting those budgets, that we start education first, and then we lay everything out from there.
Rob, you got about 20 seconds. I know that you follow the presidential politics, so can you give us kind of a summary in 20 seconds? That's probably an impossible
20
thing.
seconds, that's
Right.
absolutely
Yeah.
impossible, but it's unlike anything that I've ever seen in my lifetime, and probably will be unlike anything that I'll ever see in my lifetime again. The one good thing that I see is that Democrats, Republicans, and no party voters are showing up in droves to vote for a presidential candidate. So that's the one good thing that I can see that's coming into this next November election, is we're going to have a very engaged public into who's going to be the next president of the United States.
Well, our guest today has been Representative Rob Taylor from West Des Moines. Rob, you do a great job up there. Appreciate all your hard work. And thank you, and join us for another edition of Capitol Preview.